You know that we have been trying to get in and scratching our heads and figure out exactly where the government is going with the road user charges. Lots of you have rung in. We had Clive Matthew Wilson in the other day. Who else did we have on the issue of road user charges? There was someone else we had. Oh, Greg Murphy. We talked to Murphy about it. He said he didn't know much. And what I'm really trying to figure out is, because a whole lot of people are saying it's all part of this digital driver's license, it's all one world government. How does it work? Are there going to be a tracking device so the government knows where I am in my car at every moment of the day? And I thought really the kind of organisation, I'm a member of it, that really keeps an eye on what's happening with motorists and motoring country is the AA. So I thought, let's go to the AA and see if they've got any idea what's really happening and where things are at. Their policy and advocacy director, Martin Glynn, joins us by video link now. Martin, thank you for taking the time. Welcome to the platform.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. Look, I really am trying to, there's been so much coverage about this, and I'm trying to drill down. Can you first just tell us, has the government stated an intention to put tracking devices in every car in New Zealand as part of the new RUC regime?
It hasn't been that specific. The minister's press release when he made the announcement about 3 weeks ago was moving from FED, so that's fuel excise duty or petrol tax, to electronic road user charges. So it certainly seems like that's where they want to go long term. But from everything we understand from what's been announced, long term is very much that way. Means that, and it may be that in the meantime, there's moving the fleet or moving anyone who's on petrol taxes onto a sort of modernised form of the road user charges system we have now for diesel vehicles, heavy vehicles,
yeah. and more I use that system. I drive a diesel when it's running because it's an old Range Rover. And you people, the AA has quite a lot to do with it, unfortunately. But that system seems to work right. But then I thought about it. So the reason we need this new system is electronic vehicles don't use petrol, but they still use the roads and have the same wear and tear. Is that one of the reasons that we've got to make this change?
There's probably three main drivers, certainly from the government's point of view anyway. One is fairness, and there's two dimensions to that. The main one is fairness within the petrol vehicle fleet. So the more modern, it's the newer petrol vehicles or internal combustion engines, as people like to call them, they use much less petrol than older cars, and so they're paying sometimes multiples less in petrol tax. In other words, they're under contributing to the system, right, and everybody else is paying more.
Jeez, I never thought about that. I get it.
In terms of the relativity between vehicles like your own that are on road user charges, there's been a sort of kind of permanent focus in keeping the charges as even as they can between petrol vehicles and road user charges, but that's sort of starting to break down, and it's going to get worse on time. So that's the first point, fairness, and that sort of trips into the second one, which is revenue security, if you like, which is really about there being enough money, medium to long term, to pay for the costs of maintaining and improving our road network, and with fewer and fewer vehicles using petrol and using less and less, that whole sort of relationship is starting to break down.
So in many ways,
the final one's the long term, and I think,
No, carry on.
I was just going to say the final one's the long term, and that's what the electronics about. It's more than about funding for the road network. It's about how we use it. So that's ultimately the things everybody's been hearing about over the last few years. So congestion charges, but also tolling, getting them all on the same platform, and a fully electronic system. I mean, you could literally vary those charges by individual road if you wanted to.
Mm. All right. So it's not really about a new tax. It's about applying the tax or the theory of the tax we have more fairly to reflect, I guess, progress, changes in the types of vehicles using roads, and to distribute that fairly and equitably. I wanted to ask you.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
sorry. I think that's the main point, but the government wants to modernise it as well. You'll be aware you've got to check your odometer every so often to make sure your road user charges are up to date, because of course you currently have to buy them in advance.
It's not rocket science, to be honest. I do it online.
I agree with you. I completely agree with you. It's something I don't think everybody does. But it's also fair to say there are problems with compliance and evasion, in particular with the current system. The government's wanting to tighten that up, because if it doesn't, in effect everybody's paying more to subsidise or kind of cover the costs of those people who don't pay.
Have you seen any indications that the technology that the government is indicating, and would it be fair to say the government's indicating this would involve new devices attached to or produced in new vehicles? It's indicating that that's the way it's going to go.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
They've released a couple of cabinet papers on their announcements. So that's one part of it. But they've also said, interestingly, that most new vehicles that have been imported since 2018 already have this technology on board. It's just not enabled by the manufacturers.
Does the technology allow, whether or not it collects it or not, have the capability to allow some with a computer linked into the system to know exactly where your vehicle goes and when and how fast?
Oh, yeah, very much so. So around about 120,000 vehicles in New Zealand are already on the system. They're nearly all heavy vehicles, not exclusively. Some of the bigger businesses that have light vehicle fleets are on it too. They're on it, it's fair to say, for other reasons. They're on it to monitor that, in the case of trucks, their drivers are driving safely and fuel efficiently, and the system enables them to buy their ruck across their fleet in big volumes, and sort of at the last minute they've used it up. So there's some big advantages for them. The problem with the system for light vehicles is that those devices are currently very expensive, but they also attract data and monitoring costs, because the mobile networks are not going to track vehicles for free, and frankly sometimes when the mobile networks are unavailable, the satellite networks got to use too. So there's some data charges involved too, and that would need to be worked through where those costs should fall.
Okay. So Martin, I guess we got this choice to make. Do we go the technology, which might cost a little bit more to use, and does come with this criticism that we're nanny state big brothering, and that's just going to come whether or not you access that data? You're telling me this technology does allow the government to get it if it wants to, and people, I think, have legitimate concerns about Big Brother watching them in the future, or a kind of mission creep with the use of that technology. Or do we say that people like me who use the current diesel RUC for light vehicles, why doesn't everyone do that, including electric vehicle owners? And you have a regime of pretty heavy fines for not doing it yourself. And as I said, it is no sweat. I probably check every couple of months. I tend to buy in very large chunks in the hope that the vehicle will actually last that long. So I'm just wondering, do you think the government is now committed to the electronic option rather than the old option?